course of recent games, Derby County have made the switch from a 4-2-4 to a 3-4-3, and it's been one of the best decisions that John Eustace has made over the course of this season. But ultimately, it does not come without its pitfalls. It ultimately comes as a result of a player returning from injury, but ultimately it is the exact thing that we needed at Derby County, and ultimately it gave us the opportunity to be able to win a couple of games and move forward and actually get some points on the board. Now, obviously, if you haven't done so already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let me know your thoughts down in the comments. But let's get into it. If you have not done so already, check out the links down in the description. We're trying to hit 50 subscribers on the gaming channel so that I can live stream FC, Football Manager, and all things like that. So make sure you go and subscribe over there, and I'll catch you in one of the live streams soon. Now, John Eustace made a huge call in the half-time dressing room against Norwich City to bring on Sondre Langas on return from injury to play 45 minutes for the senior team, and it was a wonderful performance from Sondre Langas. But that isn't the change that I want to discuss. It's the change of formation from the 4-2-4 to the 3-4-3 and the impact of Sondre Langas and how that's helped Derby County over the course of the last couple of games that I'm going to discuss in this video. Now, you can let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments, but let's dive into it. Now, obviously, the move to a back three has meant that Derby County have a bit more defensive solidity in their side, and it's a move which I think has been absolutely tremendous for Derby County. If you look back to last season when John Eustace came in, he tried and tried with the 4-4-2 and the 4-2-3-1 to start off with, but ultimately then moved to the 3-5-2, where he got the best success out of that group of players. And yet again this season, the back four just doesn't seem to work, and the 3-4-3 has certainly helped Derby County pick up a couple of really, really good results. Now, obviously, in terms of picking up results, and I don't necessarily think that the formation really holds a great deal of importance these days when it comes to player roles and things like that, because at the end of the day, Ibu Adams in a midfield 2 and a 3-4-3 and Ibu Adams in a midfield 2 of a 4-2-3-1 probably has the same role. The only difference is obviously the extra bit of defensive security at the back, which I don't necessarily believe that Derby County needed. I ultimately believe that Derby County just needed to be a bit more aggressive. Now, the 3-4-3, in my opinion, allows you to be more aggressive with pretty much the same amount of attackers and the same amount of defenders, because realistically, when you look at Derby County's 3-4-3 from the game against QPR, you obviously got the back three, Langas, Clark, Sanderson, and then you've got Ozo, who's sort of your proper sitting defensive midfielder. So you've still got your back four. You've then got Elder and Johnston, who are sort of in between the both, of being a part of the defensive unit and part of the attacking unit. And then you've got the front four, essentially, of Clark, Brereton Diaz, Morris and Patrick Agyemang, and I ultimately think that it worked unbelievably well in the game against QPR, and I think it worked really well in the second half against Norwich City as well. There's so many ways that this 3-4-3 can work, and so many ways in which you can make the most out of the players that you've got available to you, and I just think that what Derby County needed from bringing in a player like Sondre Langas back into the lineup was to give John Eustace more defensive security, to give that freedom to your forward players, to give that freedom to a Bobby Clark and things like that. And I actually believe that Derby County's best midfield 2 that we have seen this season is David Ozo and Bobby Clark. And I really like Lewis Travis. I really like Ibu Adams. I just think that midfield 2 offers technicality, it offers physicality, it offers defensive awareness, it offers attacking awareness, and it offers players who can link both sides of the ball. David Ozo can link from defence to midfield. Bobby Clark can go from midfield to attack or defence to attack. And that is the most important thing when you're playing a game of football. It's being able to create chances. It's being able to open up doors that you maybe wouldn't have been able to open up if you didn't have those players in the team. And I feel like one of Derby County's major issues when playing that 4-2-4 formation that they've played over the course of the last few weeks, essentially, since the injury to Corey Blackett-Taylor, really, and the return to fitness for Patrick Agyemang and things like that. I just think that it's the right way to go. And I feel like the midfield 2 before didn't have that ability to link teams, in my opinion. And I felt like the 3 we've got now well, the two we've got now of Ozo and Clark certainly could do that and did it very, very well for me. And that's why we were able to get opportunities. And realistically, we should have scored 3 or 4 probably against QPR, because they were very, very good at getting into the opposition area and getting into those best positions to create those chances, which ultimately across the course of this season we haven't done very well at all. Now, hopefully this is the start of things to come, and this is Derby County's push for hopefully the playoffs heading our way. But ultimately, we're going to have to wait and see. We're going to have to see how it develops as sort of the season goes on and things like that. But I do believe that we've made a move in the right direction, and we've finally found a formula which I think will work. Now, obviously, what is going to be the most interesting part of this discussion is how John Eustace works things out heading into the game against Sheffield United. Does he bring Ibu Adams back? When Lewis Travis returns to fitness, does he go into midfield? Or does he give Bobby Clark the opportunity yet again in that midfield too? Because ultimately, I believe that he's earned the opportunity to stay there for me. Now, obviously, in terms of the 3-4-3, do you want 2 proper sitting midfielders? I think ultimately it depends on your opposition. And I think when you sort of look at how we were against Norwich in that second half, I think at times, because of Ibu Adams' low technical ability, I felt like we were caught out in certain positions, whereas with Bobby Clark, I felt like we benefited from having that extra bit of technique, that extra bit of composure on the ball, which really helped us sort of get to that position of being able to win the game, really. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think Clark got an assist. I don't think Clark really had any proper opportunities on goal. But ultimately, some of the passing that he did, some of the spaces that he was able to pick up and pull other defenders into is something that Ibu Adams just can't do. And Ibu Adams will never attract that attention because of how he lacks in that sort of technical area for me. Now, do I think that Ibu Adams should be a bench player for Derby County? No. Not really. Well, yes, I do. That's a lie. I don't know why I said no. I do think he should be a bench player because at the end of the day, I think he'll be a brilliant finisher. Brilliant finisher. Not in terms of scoring goals, in terms of closing out games. When Derby County are 1-2-0 up and you swap Bobby Clark for Ibu Adams, swap David Ozo for Lewis Travis, like, it speaks for itself, really, in my opinion. The ability in a defensive standpoint that comes from those 2 players speaks volumes, and that's without even mentioning players who could come in off the bench. You look at the likes of Danny Bart, who can come on and make an impact in that defensive area. You look at Craig Forsyth, who obviously wasn't involved today. Ryan Niambi, another player who can have a huge defensive impact, who I actually believe is arguably the best one-on-one defender in the Championship when fit and available. But we're going to have to wait and see sort of how this develops, because it could be absolutely unreal for Derby County if it goes well. But ultimately, we don't know how it's going to go. We don't know how John Eustace will adjust things heading into the game against Sheffield United. We don't know how injuries may impact the team and things like that. Obviously, no Corey Blackett-Taylor against QPR. No Craig Forsyth either. Obviously, Liam Thompson returning from injury. So ultimately, we don't really know where we stand in that sort of situation. Now, obviously, if you have not done so already, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell. And I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye, guys.